you're an RIA. That's a profession. That's a registered investment advisor. You're certified, licensed, highly regulated professional. Now turning to the specific services that you might offer a retirement plan, or that any RIA might offer a retirement plan, what are the differences between the levels of service you might provide? Specifically, here's some more jargon. There's a 321 fiduciary and a 338 fiduciary. Those numbers refer to sections of ERISA, which is the law that governs retirement plans, and the type of fiduciary, that's a trusted person in charge of plan assets, the type of fiduciary that a registered investment advisor may be by agreement with the ROBS owner, for example, to take on one of these specific roles. What does it mean to be a 321 or a 338 fiduciary?
Yeah, so the jargon, right?
Yeah,
the industry
here we go.
jargon.
Yeah.
So let's start with 321. So 321 is, again, a section of the ERISA code, section 401k subsection 321. And what that really means is that I myself, as a licensed advisor, is a co-fiduciary to your 401k plan. So I am on your side of the table as an owner to make sure that your plan investments are appropriately selected. One would never typically ask about the traditional investments in a 401k plan, but we have a co-fiduciary obligation to make sure that we follow a process and a procedure. Now, as I previously explained, we have software to make sure that these investments, these traditional investments that are offered, are above board to make sure that they pass this 12-point scoring scale. A 321 fiduciary advisor really means that we are going to take a joint capacity in that relationship. So I personally will have liability along with you as an owner to make sure that that investment process and procedure stays functional, all of which we do on a quarterly basis. We report that to you with these reports that come from this software to make sure that we are following this process and procedure.
Right. And I think in my view, as an ERISA attorney interacting with plans, it seems like the 321 is in conversation with the owner of the company to choose and curate that selection of investments by a very robust conversation. There's a lot of back and forth, and the ROBS owner or the owner of the company, whatever type of company it is, who may not understand investments very well, needs to ask questions and understand very thoroughly what the RIA is communicating about the performance of funds, so that they can make that co-fiduciary decision to take a fund out of the fund lineup or add one into the lineup.
It's also important to know and to add this 321 relationship, that if you have selected the right registered investment advisor, that individual, like myself, these are the rules that I follow. When an investment is chosen for the 401k in this co-fiduciary capacity, we never will self-deal. So in other words,
yes.
There's no 12B1 transaction fees. There's no sub TA fees. All of these backdoor fees.
There's no taking a little bit of money from the plan a little bit at a time, right? None of that anymore.
None of that anymore. That's very old school. We typically operate on a flat fee as an advisor. So as a flat fee, you know what that cost is up front. Anything beyond the investments, all you're going to be paying is the raw mutual fund investment cost, which typically, if it's an index-based fund, like a Vanguard fund or a Fidelity fund or a BlackRock fund, can be extremely low, below 0.1%. And so we typically like those investments because we want to grow your rate of returns and not have it pilfered by higher expensed mutual funds.
Right.
The 338 is one level above 321. So essentially what we're doing with 338 is we're shedding the responsibility all to the advisor. So think of an example of just handing the keys of the car over to the investment advisor. We can handle the 338 investment role. We do it for many of our clients. We can be in either or capacity.
Right.
Again, the 338 typically just means that when an investment in your 401k plan needs to be changed or swapped out, we will actually conduct and orchestrate that screening and that search and make that replacement on your behalf. If there's ever an audit, or if you have a disgruntled employee that says, hey, this investment wasn't doing well for me, all of that liability is on my plate. It's my job as an advisor to teach and to train. And what we really want to do is educate people the importance of saving for your retirement. We do the financial wellness for your 401k, and that is a program that we have in place. We love to do education. As much as we nerd out on investments, we love to teach and to train. We want yourself as an owner, we want your team to be invested in traditional investments that are known on the stock exchange so that we track daily performance. All mutual funds have end of day valuations, and they're tracked. They're very public. You can go into a Google search box, type in a ticker symbol of these investments, and have full knowledge of these investments.
So you, the ROBS owner, have two kinds of investments in your plan account. You have your ROBS investment, which is called sometimes an alternative investment, and you have the traditional investments. And Mark's job is to help you goose up those traditional investments to save as a way of diversifying your own participant account in your plan.
There are things that you're obligated to do on an annual basis, such as notices and disclosures that need to go out on a timely basis. Certainly, there's the year-end testing of your plan, the filing of your 5500 report. We're going to work with you throughout that whole process. Now, even though I might be arm's length away from some of these transactions, we're certainly going to be able to steer you in the right direction, or maybe send you the documents that you need to send out. I'm always going to have view access to see not only your 401k plan, but all your participants' 401k accounts. All the forms and all the documents are going to be there. I'm going to be able to assist you with all that. We want to get this plane off the ground. It's important to know as an owner that you've got a resource. And what happens when you're behind your desk on a busy day and an employee comes up to you and says, "Hey, I ran into some hard times and I want to take out a loan on my 401k." Right. Or what happens if I leave employment? What can I do with my 401k plan? Well, it is the services that I offer is you're going to just have that employee call me, and I'm going to be able to instruct the rules, any sort of next steps that these employees might need to do, what sort of forms they may need to fill out to handle all of these transactions. All of that can be off your plate.
Abbreviating third-party administration and third-party administrator to TPA. And so as a TPA firm, Leading Retirement Solutions does two basic things for their clients, right? You all prepare the plan document for the client and engage with the client on the designing of the plan, which is all about the plan document. And then you keep that updated, which is not a small task. And then you also work on the annual compliance testing and IRS and Department of Labor reporting for the plan on Form 5500. So let's start with the plan document. What does a TPA, what does LRS do with regard to the plan document? So what's your job there?
Yeah, great question. And a really foundational one, because the regulations require, in order to establish a 401k plan, they must be established by way of a set of plan documents. So that is really the starting point, even for the ROBS financing strategy, right? You have to have a 401k plan for that strategy, and you can't have a 401k plan without a set of plan documents. Now, when we talk about plan documents, what do we mean? Well, you got a couple of key documents, one of them being the adoption agreement, a basic plan document. And then there are other documents which are required by the regulations, but really designed more for the benefit of the employees, as well as the company owners that need to learn about the plan. So things like the summary plan description. And so that's in large part what our team is responsible for putting together for our clients. A robust set of legal documents that actually establishes the plan as well as the required trust to the plan. Oftentimes, when there are new regulations that Congress passes, it necessitates by regulations that you amend your adoption agreement. And there again, that is where your third-party administrator really steps in to put those legal documents together for you. Also, designing and selecting the elections, in talking with you that are going to be most beneficial to you as the ROBS entrepreneur as well as your organization. There's also what we call discretionary updates to your plan documents as well. So as your company changes, maybe you hire a few employees, and it may be prudent or even more ideal for you as the ROBS entrepreneur to change how your 401k plan operates. And that's, again, a situation where we would do that by way of amending your legal plan documents, changing the way that your retirement plan operates.
Where do people get those notices or understand which notices have to go out?
Yeah.
You,
You're exactly right. And we also draft all the notices. And they're generally custom notices to the plan as well. Other service providers may do it differently. They may provide a generic notice to a company and say, hey, draft this according to your plan or your communication needs. And there are some service providers out there that say, hey, we're not responsible for notices at all. Client, you need to take care of that. And that would be an example of when a client may actually want to seek out legal support. One of our most important responsibilities as a third-party administrator is to help educate and inform our clients so that they're operating their plan in compliance. And so if something does not make sense in the plan documents, as a third-party administrator, we want to be a part of helping to interpret the plan documents for the client and also help coach them in how to apply the plan documents to whatever situations are going on with your organization. The year-end process, really, it's one of our most important responsibilities as a third-party administrator, and it culminates in the population and filing of IRS Form 5500, not only with the IRS, but also with the Department of Labor. That's really where we lead from. It's helping our ROBS entrepreneurs to understand what is this new and different requirement that they've never, had before, and why should it be important to them. We can't prepare and file this really important informational return with the IRS and Department of Labor without the ROBS entrepreneurs' help. Now, our team, as I think you've become aware of over the years, Dahl, we really endeavor each year to present our ROBS entrepreneurs with as much populated information as we can around this year-end experience, right? Where many other companies actually present a blank slate, a blank employee census, a blank plan compliance questionnaire. We are typically, especially in years 2, 3, and beyond, we are typically presenting a pre-populated experience, and we're really asking the client, hey, did anything change from the prior year? We want to put our eyes on any changes and be able to consult and advise the client on what to do with that. So we have to rely on our clients to be an important part of engaging in that year-end submission process so that we can ultimately prepare an accurate Form 5500 and also the, real comprehensive kit of financial reporting.
LRS offers the opportunity to be TPA only, which means that the company handles payroll contributions and the routine plan operations on the payroll side throughout the year, and then downloads and provides that payroll information to the TPA at the end of the year to prepare the Form 5500, or your TPA may offer you to do the payroll. They may link up with your payroll electronically and do that contribution for you as a different service, an additional service. And then they have the data already. You don't need to provide, the company wouldn't need to provide the additional data.
The Franfund is a ROBS promoter and TPA. That means that they're your first stop for compliance if they are your promoter. Your ROBS promoter, whoever they are your first stop for compliance, or your TPA, whoever they are. In the case of a ROBS promoter, they continue as the TPA after the startup. So Franfund, for example, is a promoter and TPA. But the subscribers, you need to call your TPA if you wonder about your plan, if you just have any questions at all. If you notice that your plan document isn't signed, if things that you're going through as you're kicking the tires through this with the help of this website, for example, you can come up with all sorts of little questions. Your TPA is your main stop for a lot of things about your plan.
The primary thing that I try to instill when someone's in the process of funding their business, utilizing the ROBS strategy, is really reinforce the relationships that you're going to need to make this successful. It's a lot of people are familiar with their, they know they're going to need an accountant when they start a business, and that's so that's given. But I think it's important to establish a relationship with a CPA that actually understands this funding strategy and knows when to make sure that they're giving their client guidance on something that may be wandering into the gray or push the envelope a little bit further than what they would be comfortable with a more traditionally funded business without the retirement plan being a shareholder. So I would say relationships, CPA being a real key.
Thank you. Good. Yes.
Yeah, of course, third-party administration, you have this whole separate entity that requires compliance and all of these different steps with the retirement plan, the oversight of the IRS and the Department of Labor. You want to make sure you respect, what they're there to enforce. And so I think that third-party administrator is a real good relationship. And then, of course, having a business attorney or an attorney network where you can make sure when you want to enter into certain transactions that everything is legally sound. And again, nothing related to the plan is going to interrupt the corporate compliance and vice versa. So I think the main thing is making sure that they've sufficiently set up their network of professionals, because the business owner is the one out there working 60, 70 hours a week and just doesn't have the capacity. So having someone kind of help share that responsibility is something that I've seen really work well with small business owners.
I decided that we should just help ROBS arrangements. So we provide taxes, bookkeeping, payroll, and business advising from startup to exit for the C Corp.